Development Aid, Editor's Choice, featured Food Agriculture, Global Governance, Globalization, Headlines, Human Rights, IPS UN Inside the Glass House, Latin America, the Caribbean, Migration Refugees, Population, Poverty SDGs, Regional Categories, Terra Viva United Nations. This article forms part of the IPS coverage for World Food Day, celebrated on October 16, in Vega Central, the biggest fruit and vegetable market in Santiago. The stands of Peruvian migrants, 300,000 of whom live in Chile, offer typical produce and meals from that country. Credit Orlando Milesiups. The aim is for migration to become just one option among others for the rural population of Latin America, says Brazilian expert Luiz Carlos Bereshi, referring to an issue that causes concern in the region due to its impact on food security. The theme this year of World Food Day, celebrated October 16, is Change the Future of Migration. Invest in food security and rural development, promoted by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization FAO. If living conditions improve in rural areas, people can use more autonomous strategies that can turn the decision of whether or not to migrate into just one more option among other alternatives. Bereshi, policy officer in FAO's regional office in Santiago, Chile, told IPS. The Brazilian academic added that the tendency to migrate increases or declines depending on the specific characteristics and circumstances of the potential migrants. He mentioned, for example, individual circumstances, such as the search for independence among the young, and family circumstances, because among families with members in other countries, the tendency to migrate is stronger. Other reasons arise from where people live. With regard to this point, Bereshi explained that, in areas with greater economic opportunities and lower crime rates, better public services, etc., the tendency to migrate is weaker. In more remote areas with poorer quality land, where people don't have savings or cash allowing them to migrate, social protection policies are even more necessary, he said. Migration in context. Some 30 million people from Latin America and the Caribbean live outside their home countries, equivalent to 4% of the total population of the region, according to Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean ECLAC statistics, which are based on the latest national census information from the different countries. Of that total, some 20 million live in the United States and 11 million of them are undocumented. Central America and southern Mexico account for the largest number of migrants from the region. 9.7% of the total population of this subregion known as Mesoamerica, and Mexico represents 40% of the region's total migration, with approximately 12 million Mexicans living abroad, mainly in the United States. The International Migration Report 2016, prepared by the Population Division of the Department of Economic and Social Affairs of the United Nations Secretariat, reported that migrants from Latin America are getting younger. Between 2010 and 2015, the median age of immigrants from this region declined from 40 to 36 years. One significant fact is that around 5.5 million young people between the ages of 15 and 29 are immigrants in the United States, equivalent to 25% of the Latin American immigrant population in that country. Another is that 49.4% of Latin American immigrants in the United States are women. Another phenomenon that ECLAC emphasizes is that so far this century, interregional migration in Latin America has grown at an annual average of 3.5%, with more than 8 million Latin American immigrants living in other nations in the region, 63% in countries that border their own. Poverty and climate, factors that drive migration. For Victor Hugo Lagos, a lawyer with a Jesuit service for migrants that operates in 3 Chilean cities, poverty is the main factor driving immigration today. Poverty is a factor that makes people decide to leave their home countries and seek opportunities elsewhere. And poverty has different causes, such as a lack of access to education or jobs, he told IPS. Jorge Martinez with the Latin American and Caribbean Demographic Center CELADE said that, in this region, rural migration to urban areas has declined. That was an issue in previous decades, which accompanied broad social and economic changes, migration driven by a lack of opportunities, by modernization in agriculture, and a simultaneous drive urban areas, he told IPS at CELADE headquarters in Santiago. He added that most of the migrants from Latin America come from urban areas, with a few exceptions, such as Mexico, where migration is still leading to the depopulation of rural areas. One factor that can have a potentially heavy influence is natural disasters, climate change, which requires a new assessment of the consequences of mobility, affecting the most disadvantaged and the least resilient, he warned. In 2015, more than 19 million people worldwide were displaced within their countries as a result of natural disasters, according to FAO. Between 2008 and 2015, an average of 26.4 million people a year were displaced by natural catastrophes. Lagos lamented that at the level of international law, natural disasters have not been recognized as grounds for granting refugee status in another country, because practice shows that today the environment is one of the main factors leading people to leave their countries. One classic example is Haiti, which is not only a country steeped in poverty and whose leaders have shown a high level of corruption, but which has also been plagued by different natural disasters, he said. Bedeshi, meanwhile, stressed that the projects, programs and policies supported by FAO seek to strengthen the decision-making autonomy of rural families, including the decision of whether or not to migrate. The idea is to change the future of migration, investing in food security and agriculture. What we are trying to do in FAO, with a broad, diverse set of partners, is to eradicate rural hunger and poverty, improve nutrition, make better use of natural resources, and strengthen people's livelihoods, he said. International cooperation is not aimed at reducing the number of migrants, but at helping to make migration a safe, orderly and regular process, he added. The idea is also for people and families to decide to migrate, not as the only option for their development, but as one option in a broader range of opportunities. Bedeshi said conflicts over ownership and use of natural resources are also related to migration flows, as are aspects such as changes in climate conditions and the exhaustion of natural resources. He said that expanding access to assets and services is part of the response to build up resilience in rural areas, as is promoting more environment-friendly production methods. According to FAO, investing in sustainable food production and rural development systems helps to address the main global challenges in feeding the growing global population, protecting the climate, and tackling some of the fundamental causes of migration and displacement. It adds that the 17 Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) cannot be reached without putting an end to hunger and without achieving agriculture and food production systems that respect the climate and are sustainable and resilient. Of 129 countries monitored by FAO, 72 reached the goal of halving the proportion of people suffering from hunger by 2015, although the UN agency issued an alert that in 2016 the fight against malnutrition suffered a setback.